Good evening, everybody. I'm Helen Farrer, the Florentine, and here's a session of TF Together I've been waiting to get my teeth into. We're welcoming Kristine Jannuzzi, who's a cheese specialist, and what better time of the year to talk about how to build a festive cheese board. Thank you, Kristine, for joining us this evening.
My pleasure to be here. Hi, everybody.
So, Kristine, I mean, you're into cheese. You're a journalist. You write for La Cucina Italiana, Italy magazine, cheese culture, and you travel all over to learn about cheese. Maybe tell us a bit about what brought you to cheese initially. What made you fall in love with it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't something I, predicted as a kid that I was going to become a cheese specialist, but I'm happy with how it turned out in the end. I was living here in Italy about almost 20 years ago here in Florence, and that was really the first time I started to realize just how many different types of cheeses there are. I remember my friends' parents would be, slicing cheese after the meal, and all the pecorini that I had never known existed, growing up in the US. So that was kind of my first real taste of it. And then I moved back to New York after 2 years, and I went to an event about the evolution of Italian American cuisine from Italian food, which is, has evolved and is a bit different. And one of the speakers there is a man named Lou DiPaolo, whose family has a shop in Little Italy for over 100 years. It was started by his great-grandfather, a little latteria that has evolved into a shop that has over 300 cheeses, almost all Italian. And he spoke, and he was the first person I ever heard speak about cheese in this way, about the animals and the seasonality of the milk. Cheese has terroir just like wine does. And also the stories behind the people who make them, and also the areas that they come from. So cheese is really a lens into people and place. And so I kind of was fascinated with him, the store itself. Now his children work there, so it's been 5 generations of people working there. So I decided I wanted to write about him in the store. And that was sort of how it started. I then ended up writing a few more cheese-related articles, and then I found out about the magazine culture that was all about cheese, and I just sort of fell in love with it and all of the stories behind it. And of course, it's delicious. So,
I mean, it's one of those foodstuffs that generally brings people together. I mean, I write, and I'm very fond of the wine world, and I agree with you entirely. It's not so much about what's in the glass, which is delightful. It's very much the world around the glass. And that's where, I can see where you're coming from. And of course, cheese and wine go very happily together as well. So that they meet one another halfway. We've got some pictures of, we're here to talk about festive cheese board this evening. So I mean, maybe you could explain what we're looking at here, Kristine. It looks amazing.
Yes. So this is a beautiful blue cheese from Piemonte. It almost looks like a cake, doesn't it? And it's washed in passito sweet wine and topped with cranberries, and it's aged about 2 months. It's called Blue 61. It was created by the cheesemaker in 2011 to celebrate 50 years of marriage with his wife. So it was a tribute to her.
Oh, there.
Yeah. So, blue cheese can sometimes be a bit polarizing. People tend to love it or hate it. I think this one is really nice because, it's not as strong as some of the others. It's tempered with the sweetness. And you can find this one here in Florence at the Sant'Ambrogio market.
Oh, wonderful. So we can actually find it, because this is important, knowing where to find different cheeses, because right. Otherwise we end up always buying similar things. So you can get this at Sant'Ambrogio. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Super. And then what else do we have? I think we've got more photos as well. Ooh, that looks pretty amazing.
That's a goat cheese called Brunei, also from Piemonte. It's creamy, it's decadent. When I put together a cheese board, I always like to have one cheese that I think is just going to kind of wow everybody. Usually like a creamy, rich, luxurious cheese, and this is one of them that is usually a hit. It's a goat's milk cheese. It's from Caseificio Altalanga, and it's a bloomy rind, like a brie style cheese. And this one you can also find at a few different shops here in Florence.
I'm thinking about pairing that right now with some of the amazing Franciacorta bubbles that you find up north are pretty
Yeah.
amazing to cut through the fattiness. Is that is it a fatty wine then, or is it a fatty cheese, or how does it taste in the?
It is creamy. The goat's milk wouldn't be as fatty as like a sheep's milk cheese, but
Okay.
the texture is so rich. And in general, bubbly wines are like a great match across the board with cheeses, because just what you said, the bubbles kind of cut through the creaminess, the fat. So that would definitely be a nice pairing.
Oh, fantastic! Right. Oh, here's one we all know and love, and in the photo that we used to promote this evening's session, you're there, surrounded by the wheels of Parmigiano Reggiano. Maybe explain this one to us, and also what makes Parmigiano Reggiano such an iconic cheese.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fabulous cheese, and I really love to serve it on a board just like that, like a big wedge of it for people to be able to break off their own hunks, because you kind of appreciate, how unique it is to see it like that. And that was the only cheese I put on this board. I had, Parmigiano Reggiano has that umami kind of flavor to it. It can be very savory. So I have some olives, I put some walnuts on the board, some coppa, and just some pretty garnish with the fiori di zucca, the zucchini flowers, and the clementines. I was thinking, though, for the holidays, it could be fun here because, this would be more easy to do here than it would be in the US. You could do, just like the way you might with a wine, you could do like a flight of Parmigiano Reggiano, different ages, and compare. You could do 24 months, 36 months, 48 months, start with the youngest and see how the cheese changes.
That's wonderful, and it's something as well as a gift. We're all for promoting, our local fair or Italian fair, and it's something that you do find, that you can buy like gift sets of Parmigiano Reggiano that's been aged for different years. So that's actually quite a nice gift for somebody for Christmas as well, perhaps.
Yeah, and then there are also different breeds of cows that are used. So you could also do that. Like there's the red cow, the brown cow, the white cow. So you could also try that. There's a further distinction of the prodotto della montagna, mountain cheese. So there's a lot of different ways that you could, experiment and have a fun little geek out on the tasting with just Parmigiano Reggiano.
Okay, so and then I think we've got another photo, perhaps. Oh wow, that is a very Instagrammable, and that explains, Kristine, why you're very followed as NYC Cheese Chick on Instagram, right? Yeah, let's explain this beauty.
That was a Halloween themed board. And, I mean, when you're putting together a cheese board, it's nice to put together a different range of styles of cheeses and also textures. So in the top left corner, that's like a taleggio style cheese, a washed rind. So it's a bit stinky. Sometimes those cheeses, smell quite strong, but then their taste is not as funky as the smell. So, and then we've got some prosciutto next to that meaty cheese. And I put the tarallucci down the middle. I like to have textural contrast. It's nice to have something crunchy on the board. The one on the top right is a wine wash cheese. And you can see that it was also, the wine kind of goes into the paste of the cheese. So it's a kind of a fun boozy cheese to try, and there's some grapes next to that one. And then I have a blue cheese, a buffalo milk blue cheese on the bottom of the board. Was something I wanted to talk about. It's nice to have a different range of milks as well. And sometimes we tend to think maybe primarily of mozzarella di bufala for buffalo milk cheeses, but there also are aged cheeses made with buffalo milk, and that blue is one of them.
And you've even got some, I mean, we always think about, often, grapes always come to mind as an accompaniment with cheese, but I see you've also got some sweets there as well. Are they sweet chocolates, those?
Yeah, with dark chocolate in particular with blue cheese is beautiful, because the blue cheese can be strong and salty, and then the sweetness of the dark chocolate, but it's not overpoweringly sweet, can be a really nice combination.
Oh, it's interesting. I never would have thought of that. It's a fascinating one. And you've got the mini zucca there for Halloween.
Right.
Decorative more than anything else, the mini zucca.
Yeah.
So Alan asks, sorry, because we like to bring in, you know, our viewers as we have these conversations. Alan asks, good stuff. Can you repeat the name of that? And I think he's talking about the second cheese, the creamy cheese.
Oh, yes, that's called Brunet, Brunet, and it's from Caseificio al Dalanga.
There we go. There we go, Alan. I hope you can get your hands on some of that wherever you are. And Candy also says, oh, a Parmigiano Reggiano flight sounds divine. Well, we couldn't agree more, you know. It sounds absolutely wonderful.
It is really fun. The cheese really does change dramatically. You know, at 24 months, it's still kind of a bit moist and creamy. You smell it, you can get pineapple. And then, you know, it loses moisture as it ages and the flavor gets more intense. So it's really fun to kind of even just do it with a couple of friends or, you know, a partner and just kind of go through and have fun, you know, experimenting with how it changes.
Fabulous. I mean, that's something we're all looking for ways to while away our winter weekends and evenings. A cheese flight sounds like a wonderful way to do that. Vincent says, looks deliriously, delightfully delicious.
Excellent.
maybe we can go back to our cheese slides. Oh, what's this? This is fascinating.
Oh yeah, this was one I did for Christmas a couple of years ago. So in the middle of the board is a Swiss cheese called Tête de Moine. I had posted a video of this cheese yesterday on my Instagram. It's a really cool cheese, and it is typically served on this traditional tool called a girole. So you basically take a half of the wheel and you put it on this tool, and then you rotate the blade, and it makes these beautiful cheese flowers. And it's, I mean, we're not really having parties right now, but it's always a showstopper at a party because people are like, what is this beautiful cheese with these flowers, and can I eat it? And it's, so that's a really beautiful cheese. It's a bit of a pungent cheese. And so this tool, the way that the flowers are formed, is like the ideal way to eat the cheese and experience it. So I put that at the middle of the board. And then I had a bunch of different cheeses. I think Asiago. I had some cranberries. Pomegranate is nice this time of year to put on the board, right? It's nice to kind of do red and green festive for Christmas. Yeah, I had, what else did I have on there? Provolone, I think there's an American cheese on there, a mix of meats. Yeah, so.
I mean, it kind of brings me to, I'll go a little bit off of the cheese board question, but I mean, in terms of finding international cheeses, we're you know, both in Florence. I'm slightly outside. I mean, I do this time of the year, I kind of think about Stilton. I think about, you know, the tastes of home. I'm sure you're the same. You think about American cheeses. I don't know if there's any places that you could recommend where we can, you know, get these tastes of our home cheeses in some way.
Right. Yeah, no, I have been exploring the cheese shops in Florence since I've been back in early September. So at Peña, close to the Duomo, they have some of the international cheeses. They have Stilton, a couple of cheddars. They have some great French cheeses. They have Comté, which is a classic. They have some beautiful little French goat cheeses with, you know, pretty toppings of walnuts and I think cranberries as well. Gruyere. And they also have a very special French cheese, Mont d'Or, that is only a seasonal cheese that comes out this kind of time of year. So that's a great spot. Also, I just was in the Mercato di San Lorenzo. There's a store there called Da Marco, and they have a few of these classics as well, the Stilton. And where else? American cheese is tricky. However, I did find one place. So last year, I had the pleasure of being a judge at the World Cheese Awards in Bergamo. And for the first time in the 32-year history of the awards, an American cheese won.
No, really? Yeah. That's amazing. Fantastic.
I think we have a picture of the cheese. It's called Rogue River Blue. I'm not sure if it was in the rotation, but it's from Oregon. It's another blue cheese. It's an organic cow's milk cheese. It's aged for a minimum of 9 months, and then it's wrapped in Syrah grape leaves that are soaked in a local pear spirit from Oregon. It's an amazing cheese. And this won out of think over 3,800 cheeses. This was crowned the best cheese in the world.
Incredible. I mean, how does that judging go then? Is it a blind tasting session? Is it split over a series of days, I imagine, and something like? How does that work a little bit?
Yeah, it's actually pretty fascinating. Last year was my first time doing it. Yeah, there were, I think, about 280 judges, over 3,000 cheeses. Obviously, each person didn't taste all the cheeses. So you're broken down into teams of 3 people, and each team of judges tastes about 45 cheeses each. And yeah, it is blind in the sense that you don't know, the specific producer. So each team, so I was on a team with two wonderful people from the UK and Belgium, and together we worked our way through 45 cheeses, and you score each one based on appearance, smell, aroma, overall. And after you've gone through all of them, you choose one cheese from your table that's a super gold, and that cheese then goes on to be further evaluated by this team of super judges. So there were like 85 cheeses that were then narrowed down from the team of super judges that were 16. So it's a whole day process. And then there are 16 finalists that the judges then champion. Each judge chooses a cheese and champions in front of a live audience. And then the 16 top judges taste it and then score it, almost like in the Olympics, holding up. And it was very dramatic last year because this cheese was tied with a Parmigiano Reggiano. So they had to cast a deciding vote, and then this blue cheese won, and then it was revealed it was this American cheese from Oregon. One of the judges, who's a friend of mine, Carlos Yescas, compared it to the Judgment of Paris with wine, when a wine from Napa Valley beat the French wine. So.
That's really, really interesting, Kristine. I mean, and the fact that this cheese just sort of like something so well known as Parmigiano Reggiano, and you've got this American cheese that's just sort of appeared and everybody's just raving about it, is absolutely fascinating.
Yes.
Let's go back to our cheese boards. Let's carry on with our cheese boards.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say there is one place that you can get that cheese though in Italy. There's a site that I found, and they have a small amount, and he told me they're getting 4 more wheels in January. So if anybody's interested, I can let you know where to find it here in Italy.
Wonderful. Reach out to Kristine on our Instagram, or get in touch with us at the Florentine, and we'll connect you with Kristine if you're interested in one of those amazing looking cheeses. This is a busy board. There's a lot going on here. Explain this one.
Yes, this one was last year for a Christmas party. This board was decimated by the end of the party. And this was more like different styles of cheese. I think they're all cow's milk, but if the one on the right with the strawberry on top, the little round one, is a robiola, very just creamy, spreadable. That cheese is like a blank canvas. You could put honey on it. You could put jam on it. You could you could just enjoy it on its own. But it's just a nice, fresh, creamy cheese. And then the next one, if we're going clockwise, is again a taleggio, which I really like. Again, can be a little stinky, but not as stinky as some of the other washed rind cheeses. And then the next one, that's also an American cheese, another American cheese, not available here, but that's a spruce bark wrapped cheese. And that's similar to the Mont d'Or that I mentioned, the French cheese that you can get in Peña. And it has a sort of very meaty, bacony, rich flavor. You could even put a cheese like that in the oven and heat it up, and then just dip chunks of bread in it, or potatoes, or French fries, anything. And then the last one again is the Parmigiano Reggiano. So and I have some hazelnuts in the middle, and some crunch. It's fun to do different textural things. I think the honey is a truffle honey that I have there. And people have so much fun just playing around with the different combinations too. Like, even if I were to say, try the honey with the robiola, but I want you to try it with something else too and see how you like it. You don't have to worry about hard and fast rules. I don't think cheese should be intimidating. It should be delicious and fun. And
I was thinking maybe this is just me just coming up with random ideas, but how this time of the year we have the panettone, And
Yeah.
sometimes you see this gastronomic panettone, you know, where it's layered or cut into quarters and you see different things. Is that something that maybe you could do with cheese as well? I mean, do something with a panettone and cheese?
Yeah, you know, and I was actually thinking also with panforte that could be nice with like a blue cheese, because again, you have these sort of like Christmassy, cinnamony kind of flavors with the blue cheese. The panettone, yeah, also. I mean, and then the pandoro, sometimes people do the mascarpone cream to kind of make that pretty little star, like Christmas tree where they cut it. I don't know if you know, I have a picture of that somewhere that I can show you. But yeah, actually there was a nice buffalo milk cheese that I found at the Mercato di San Lorenzo, this place da Marco, that is called Buffalotto from Campania, a brie style cheese. So buffalo milk has almost twice the fat of cow's milk. So these cheeses are very rich. And this is like looks kind of like a brie, but so creamy and delicious. And I was thinking that could be nice with a slice of panettone, even for breakfast.
Wonderful. We've got a few comments. Phyllis says, nothing better than cheese, fruit, and fabulous vino. Life is good. And it's true. We have to enjoy ourselves, especially in these times, and especially at this time of the year. Maybe let's go back and see what's next. Oh.
Oh yeah, that was just a pretty little cheese plate I put together here in September. I thought the heart shape was just so cute. And I just got that here at the local grocery store, Sapori e Dintorni. It's a provolone. And then the other cheese is a raw milk pecorino that I got in the little market in Santo Spirito. And then I just put some grapes, and I think that was like a sopressata, and then it's nice, you know, I just herbs for fresh herbs for garnish. Yeah, and that was just, I had a couple of girlfriends over. I mean, it's just such a nice little thing to nosh over, I think.
It's quite simple as well. If, you know, unfortunately this year we won't be gathering into big groups. Maybe we need smaller cheese boards. I mean, I will freely admit, Kristine, and you might judge me for this one, my husband, an Italian, can't stand cheese, whereas I love it. So it's one of those, you know, how do I do a mini cheese board for myself in some sort of way, you know, to taste different things? And this sort of like a smaller, you know, take on a cheese board is nicer, perhaps, in some ways.
Yeah. I mean, and people could also do little personal plates if you are getting together, but trying to kind of keep a distance. So, so he's written off all cheese, the whole kit and caboodle.
Mozzarella's okay, you know, but apart from that, no, it's a strange one. I haven't converted him on that front, but maybe there's still time. You never know.
Maybe I can work on him for you.
We've got Vincent who's waxing lyrical on the cheese front. He's naming all sorts of wonderful names. Bosan, Saga, Berusterov, and he goes on to Beppe di Sorrento, Boschetta al Tartufo. It's clearly a world I need to explore more. I've not heard of most of these.
I will say truffle cheeses tend to be very popular. There's one that's incredibly popular that you can find in pretty much any of the shops here in Florence. It's called Moliterno al Tartufo. It's a pecorino from Sardinia, and it's it's a beautiful cheese. It has these veins of truffle in it that almost look like lightning. And it has a very strong truffle flavor. It's amazing. I've actually been to visit the cheesemaker in Sardinia where it's made, and it's unique in that it's first aged for 3 or 4 months and then injected with the truffle, vacuum sealed, and then aged a few more months. So the truffle flavor is very, very intense. It's a beautiful cheese.
That sounds absolutely beautiful. Yeah, wow. Any thoughts to share on Ocella Barolo?
Oh, okay. Yes. That is a beautiful cheese. And Ocelli is also in Piemonte. It makes some very, very unusual cheeses. Yeah, you know, it has that kind of boozy taste to it from the wine, but it's a beautiful cheese. There was another one that I wanted to mention from Ocelli that I think there was a picture of that's wrapped in chestnut leaves. And it's aged. It's a mixed milk cheese. I think it's cow and sheep or cow and goat, depending on the season. And it's aged, I think, at least 18 months. So it gets caramelly. It's sweet. It has these crunchy crystals in it, the tyrosine crystals that form as the cheeses break down. It's a beautiful, beautiful cheese. And the Ocelli al Barolo that he mentioned, and this cheese you can find at Italy here in Florence.
Ah, okay, wonderful. My cheese list, my cheese shopping list is ever growing. This is going to be a complicated Christmas. Let's go. Let's maybe look at another version. I think we've still got some photographs left to look at your creations. Oh, we've got some artichokes here. What are we looking at?
Oh yeah, and this is also kind of a smaller one. Yeah, and I kind of went just more on the savory pairings with these. This is another one of the spruce bark wrapped cheeses that has kind of a meaty, sometimes a bacony, brothy flavor to it. So I thought it would be nice with the artichokes, with the savory artichokes, and some of the cured meats. And then I think that's a provolone again. My family in the US, we always had provolone at Christmas, so I always like to have that around Christmas time.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Would you mind mentioning, sorry, Kristine, can you just spell out the name of the cheese with the truffle lines inside?
Yes, of course. It's Moliterno, so it's Moliterno, Al, tartufo, which just means truffle, Tartufo.
And you're doing well, the spelling bee there, that was, that was impressive. So it's become a spelling test. So after the artichokes, I'm just eating these cheese photos up with my eyes. Do we have more, Jane, behind the scenes? What's next? Ooh.
Oh yeah, this was just a little platter of speck Alto Adige. So I went up to Alto Adige in October for a project there, and I love prosciutto, but I also love the speck because it's lightly smoked, so it has this smokiness to it, which is kind of fun, and it also is coated in herbs, so you get some of that as well. And you can also, if you're going to be serving meats with the cheese, you could also put it on the side the way I did there. So I just wanted to show that kind of presentation of kind of rolling them like that. It's just such a pretty presentation.
No, it really is. I'm told we have one photo left.
That is the tête de moine that I was talking about earlier. That is the Swiss cheese that you can get at Peña here in Florence. And the tool to make those flowers that it's on is called a girole, and you can order that online. So tête de moine in French means monk's head. And they say that it was originally made by monks, actually, in Switzerland. But they say that as you start to, make these roses with the cheese and kind of get down on the cheese, it looks like a monk's head. So they say that's where the name came from. But those are the pretty rosettes that you can make with that cheese. Like I said, that's a great cheese for a party. It's also a great melting cheese too. So you could use it for cooking as well.
Wonderful. I mean, that's something that we sort of like think about this time of the year, is the cheeses that you put in the oven and what you could do. I mean, that's always a delight, to share with friends.
Yes.
What cheeses, other than the obvious candidates, would you suggest for baking, perhaps?
Yeah. So Fontina Valle d'Aosta is a great melting cheese. I visited a producer there, and I had an amazing dish called just zuppa valdostana, which basically just bread, sauteed onions, broth, and melted cheese on it. It's like a deconstructed French onion soup. It's amazing. So that's a great melting cheese. Comté is a great French melting cheese. That one you can get at Peña. What else? I made a fonduta with just Parmigiano Reggiano and milk. For Thanksgiving as a sauce to put on green beans, and it was so much simpler than I thought it was going to be. So that was
interesting.
Simpler than like a bechamel. Yeah.
Jennifer says, such amazing ideas for holiday cheese boards. So thank you for those things. That's nice. And we've got lots and lots of comments coming in. So there's obviously a lot of interest in cheese. I'm quite intrigued and fascinated by what I'm hearing, this evening. If I wanted to learn more about cheeses, I mean, how does one educate oneself on the cheese front?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely different resources online, like the magazine that I mentioned, Culture magazine, that I was writing for a number of years. They're a great resource. There are loads of books on cheese now available. There are classes. I do classes, and I'm doing virtual classes now if anybody wants to do one with me. And yeah, I mean, if you have the opportunity under, you know, more sort of normal circumstances to visit cheesemakers, I mean, you can read about it and you can talk to people, but to actually see the process is pretty amazing and pretty, you know, to understand. It's because you're not typically thinking about it when you're eating a piece of cheese, how liquid milk can turn into all of these amazing different possibilities, right? So it's pretty cool to see the process in person if you have the opportunity as well.
Well, thank you, Kristine. It's been wonderful to learn about all this cheeses, and your wealth of knowledge is quite phenomenal. And I hope myself that I'll be able to attend your course and learn more. I think maybe we'll end with a comment from Alan, who says, "Okay, I have to go to the fridge and get a snack." This is
well done, well done.
Yeah, I think we all agree with you, Alan. I think that is our next stop. I have some Parmigiano Reggiano that's 36 months old, so that I'm off to go and have a bite of that now. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, Kristine. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you'd like to attend Kristine's classes or find out more about cheese, please do reach out to her on Instagram. And also contact the Florentine directly if you'd like to know more. I'll just say a plug for this Friday. We have at 6 p.m. the Mayor of Florence, Dario Nadella, will be talking to us, answering a few interview questions. It's a pre-recorded interview, but it will be introduced live at 6 p.m. So please do join us for that. And now off we go, and we're checking out our fridges for cheese. Thank you again, Kristine. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao. Thank